I can hear you. Can
Right on. We're
everybody
good.
else hear him? All right,
Yep.
we're good. All right, so we will kick off. We only have Mr. Bouma for 30 minutes before he has to go into a caucus meeting. So we'll try to make the most of this time. So thank you very much to our MPP, Will Bouma, for taking the time to chat with all of us today, providing a little bit of an update with COVID, and what we can expect moving forward, what we can expect that to look like. So I think everybody's already muted, but please keep yourself muted moving forward so that we don't hear things like my dog snoring in the background. And then if, time allows, Mr. Bouma will be here to answer some questions and things like that. And I know we are already a very respectful and beautiful community, so I know I don't have to remind anybody to keep, questions respectful and to the point. So without further ado, I'll let you take over.
So sorry, I didn't really get a briefing on. So what are we talking about, Rose?
Oh, I emailed Corey last night, just a bit of an update on what we can expect with, obviously the Ford government announced that there's a plan to roll out, reopening Ontario and what that looks like. So yeah, just a little bit of an update on what we can expect moving forward. Open houses have been banned. They're illegal right now. So maybe some indication on when we can expect that to open up and if there's going to be any restrictions on public gatherings, things like that.
Well, I can't answer that question at all right now. I know the Premier said yesterday during his press conference that things are going well, the numbers are going in the right direction. If things keep going in that direction, we're hoping to get some better news as we move forward.
Okay, so do you have anything to share at this time that with the reopening?
As far as reopening, it's all a wait and see at this point. Yeah, we have where things are going in the right direction, and I think as that goes forward, I know we've had communications from a lot of garden centers, and the Premier said yesterday that he hopes to have some good news for them. I haven't heard anything specifically about any changes with real estate at this point. I know we've been advocating for, if people can easily socially distance and do those things, that we should be moving that way. And yet, you have someone go through a house, every surface they touch has to be disinfected. So I'm not even sure what that looks like yet as far as that goes, and how much PPE would be required on behalf of, the real estate agent doing an open house, and or would you just say no touching of surfaces, and what does the disinfection look like, and what products? These are things that we've been thinking about it in the optometry world about what that looks like, and I don't really have any clear answers on exactly what that is yet. And I think some of it's wait and see about what's going on in some of the other areas throughout the world too, as they slowly reopen, what happens.
Yep. So bigger picture, we're obviously all self-employed. Everybody here is self-employed, or they own a brokerage. I know you guys have done a few things with small business loans and things along that line. Do you have anything that you can share that you've already done or that you anticipate will be done for small businesses to support the self-employed or small businesses?
Yeah, so, as you know, there's how many? 400,000? I forget the exact number now. I looked it up a couple of weeks ago, small businesses in the province of Ontario. And, to be able to help out every single small business is beyond the means of the provincial government. I think that's why the federal government has been able to pull those levers. What I've been talking about is, as we go through this, we need to be able to make business easier for people in order to do that. And, but yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're looking for, whether it's direct money from the provincial government for all the small businesses would be very, very difficult at this point. And we just are working through what the opening plan looks like at this point.
Can you share a little bit about the opening plan? And I know it's been put out there, but
yeah, very phased approach, right? We're taking it one day at a time, and starting with those things that can be more easily socially distanced, outdoor activities, things like that, and then working indoors. Yeah, I've had those conversations with optometry colleagues regularly too, and I think there's still questions of the availability of PPE. Those are the conversations that I've been having with people in the Premier office. It's not just opening up. It's not just opening up the economy. It's also having the means necessary and the infrastructure in place so that you can do that safely. And whether that means testing, means gloves, and so there's still a lot of questions that I don't have clear answers on what that looks like, and so it's just hanging in there until we can get to that point and slowly ramp things up.
And do you know, can we expect as the phases roll out that the number of people that are allowed to gather will increase with each phase?
I sure hope so. And then the question is to do something like we did yesterday, which honestly wasn't a whole lot, but see what happens to the numbers based on that. And if the trends continue and we don't see numbers going up, and again, it takes 2 weeks after you make a change to really get feedback. So, and as the minister said last week, we don't really know if we've passed the peak until we, like, in hindsight. So you have all those questions going through your mind at the same time.
Perfect. Now we do have some questions waiting here, Mr. Bouma. So would you like to take questions, or did you want to?
Nope, that's
the
fine.
Floor for anything else? Okay. So
I don't know if I have answers, but you can ask questions.
We can definitely try. So I have someone you should probably know, Mr. Ray Petro is.
Oh yeah, he's a troublemaker.
Yeah. You don't have to tell me. All right, Ray, you have the floor.
Hey, Will, nice to see you. I was secretly hoping you'd be able to grow a beard, but I guess you can't. But that's a whole other conation.
I still need to be able to put on a firefighter mask. Yep.
Yeah, fair enough. That was below the belt. No, serious question though, and I know you may not know the answer, but just your opinion. Do you think open houses will be allowed again? Is that your government's decision? Is that our association's decision? And if so, at what stage do you think that would come back? What phase?
And I can't speak for the government. I haven't heard anything about real estate or open houses in any of the communications that I've seen from the PO. And yet, I think open houses are one of those things that should be relatively easy to manage, right? You can stagger them, have someone go through a house for half an hour, have some time in between to quick wipe down any surfaces anyone can touch. It's easy enough to have people put on gloves and a mask if they go through a house. And then that would mean that you don't have to wipe down any surfaces. And I think you should be able to do that. And it's not like you're looking at congregants of more than so many people, because you can stagger the appointments as people go through. And so I think that should be doable, quite frankly. And I'm happy to take that forward to the powers that be if you want to communicate that. And I think if Milan's on the line, we can take that note too and bring that forward to, I guess it'd be MGCS.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Ray. Now I have a question here typed out to me. Jessica Vansicle has asked, where are we at with incorporating for realtors? As you may remember, Will, we had the bill, the TRESA bill passed, the Trust in Real Estate Act. And she
went through third reading. It's been signed.
Yep. And we're just kind of waiting for that to be written. Is that
so we're waiting for regulations on that? Do we know? Because I thought we passed it and it was done. But then what other stages still need to be completed before incorporation can happen? That's I'm not aware of.
Okay. So we're still waiting on that part.
All right. So Milan, if you could take that note down that we have that question, and then we can get right back to you. And that's from Jessica Van Sickle.
Correct.
Okay. And otherwise, if you can send us her contact information, we'll get the answer to that. Or do you want to do it all through you, Rose?
We'll do it through the association. I can email Corey. Yeah.
Yep. Right on.
Okay. I have Josh Wall had his hand up, and he typed a question, but I'll let him ask the question.
Thanks so
Hi,
much.
Josh.
for being
How are
here.
you?
I'm fantastic, sir. And yourself?
Very, very good. You might notice I'm driving, and that's because, as you know, St. Joseph's Life Care Center couldn't have a walk, so someone started a bottle drive. So we're actually driving a huge trailer full of bottles to Tavistock, where they're willing to take them, and then we're going to get all suited up and unload them.
So that's actually a great segue into my first question. I wanted to ask you about some of the local initiatives that you've been a part of since this began, and if there was anything in particular you wanted to highlight. As realtors here in the community, we like to be involved in a lot of stuff too. So what do you got on the go in regards to community building? Did we lose him?
I think we're losing him. I wasn't sure if it was just me. Milan, if you're here, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Rose.
Oh. Are you able to shoot him a message?
Yeah, just hang.
So that we can't hear him. He's in a low signal area.
Friend Nancy Hussey did the needs for support.
Okay, boss,
Do we have?
can you restart all that? You were in a really low gray area.
Oh yeah, no. Can you guys hear me now? All
Now
right,
we
right
can.
on. So everything from bottle drives to supporting local restaurants. I made Milan go to Mercasa and pick up some lunch for staff when we had a couple people at the office the other day. The obvious trying to do drives for PPE for the hospital, although I think they're in pretty good shape, but they're really helping out the long-term care homes and their retirement community. It's so small things. I think the biggest thing right now are probably the fundraisers that would normally be going on, whether and all those other activities that just aren't happening right now that really need support from people. I was at the Twin Valley Zoo the other day, and they normally have $100,000 worth of bookings with school groups at this point, and their books are empty, and yet it costs them $30,000 a month just to keep their lights on. And there's so many are just really struggling. Yeah, so looking for those opportunities, and then just trying to figure out ways of getting people there and to put those good news stories out in the community is where I'm focused on.
And then one more question, if I can, Rose.
Sure, just quickly though, Josh.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about property values, mortgage rates, and just, the economic fallout from the COVID-19 crisis, and what kind of conversations are being had at the provincial level about, how this might impact, our market.
Turn right on Pinehurst Road.
Yeah, that's not a conversation that we've had yet. You might even know a little bit better than I do about what's going on if there's been any real drop. Obviously, no one can think of a time when we've shut down the economy for completely for this amount of time. So the long-term impacts of that have yet to be discovered, unfortunately. And I guess you have to wait and see what happens with that.
Awesome. Thank you.
You bet. Good to hear your voice.
Thank you.
Yeah, you too.
Best regards, Stephanie.
I'll let her know.
All right, I have two questions waiting. I have Lance who's waiting to talk, but I also have a written typed question here as well. Alex Fox, is there an update on testing and who will get tested moving forward?
That's a really great question, and that's been a key concern of mine personally that I've been pushing for. The The issues that we have is that there are worldwide shortages of testing, of personal protective equipment. And one of the key challenges that I see as we begin to open up the economy is that everything is going to be going through testing. Testing and PPE and its availability. You know, the Premier set a very aggressive target based on where we were of getting to 14,000 tests a day. And yet, it remains a real challenge. Obviously, in a perfect world, in my mind, we'd be able to burn through 14 million tests a week so that you could properly quantify everyone. But right now, we have all of that energy focused on protecting our long-term care homes, and I see some concerns in things like food production and everywhere else, where people need to be tested frequently. And, you know, even just for food security, I was having a chat with the chairman of the Conestoga meatpacking plant last week. And, you know, he had 350 of 1,000 employees just not show up for work because they had concerns about COVID. And they're doing everything. They're doing social distancing. They have all the screens in place. All the PPE is on, but the employees just don't feel safe without being able to be tested. And that's just not something that we can do right now. And I think until we can get to provincial, Ontario-made testing and PPE and really have that rolling, you know, you have a company, a guy I know owns Whitebird, and they started making real simple face shields. And, you know, he just got an order for 500,000 of them. But until we can ramp up production of the equipment and testing that we need locally, and I'm not even sure what that requires in the testing part, because not only do you want to have a positive negative, but you also want to know if someone has the antibiotics or whether they're still shedding virus. So I think moving forward, one of the biggest challenges that we're going to have is having, like I said, the infrastructure in place, the testing in place, the PPE in place, so that people can actually begin to open up the economy again. Because it does us no good to say, oh, you can do open houses if you don't have the equipment and supplies necessary in order to do that, which is, I think, a big challenge that we're still trying to wrap our brains around in order to have that stuff in place.
Perfect, thank you. We had Lance Callback.
Good morning, Will.
Good morning, Lance. How are you, sir?
Good, thank you. You just touched on the zoo and how they have no revenue and lots of expenses. I think you sort of speak for most residential and commercial landlords that are in the same situation. How are we making out with the emergency commercial rent assistance program? Is it on target for mid-May? And what do you see happening with residential tenancy act with a big backlog, with a system that was already backlogged as far as evictions and non-payment of rent and all the hearings that are to come?
Yeah, those are really good questions. Just from talking to caucus members and from what I'm hearing from tenants, actually, is that a lot of commercial landlords don't seem to be that interested in picking that up. And so it might need some tweaking, I think, and that's, you know, it's a partnership, mostly federal with a little bit from the province, but we might need some tweaking in there in order to get commercial landlords interested. But I think the other piece is, I think they feel they're more secure counting on people paying, and I think they need to have, or they might see people not paying, and then they might be more interested in picking up the slack on making that program available for commercial tenants. On the residential tenancy side, you know, we needed people to feel that they were secure in their homes. So while I completely agree that it was good not to allow people to be evicted, you're right. It's a huge backlog, and I think we need to be able to move through those things. And that's something that I've been working on since having conversations with the Brantford Landlords Association. To, you know, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we still need a sheriff locally, and we need to be able to move through these landlord tenant board complaints as quickly for landlords as we do for tenants. And there's so much work to be done, especially on the tribunal side. And I've been working closely and have a very good working relationship with the Ministry of the Attorney General as we try to get through that backlog try to improve things for residential landlords, because it's a horrible challenge at this point, and COVID-19 has definitely made that, if not twice as bad, 4 times as bad, or it will be by the time we get through this. So big challenges, but that's a priority for us, working on it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. We'll let you take that back to where it needs to go, Will, because that's a big one.
No, that is a very big one. Yep.
Yeah. Martin, we have you up next, buddy.
Yes. Hi, Will. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
Good, good. So I have a question about the testing. Like the Premier said that how quickly we can open things up depends on the results from the testing to see that the cases are going down.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned to have a safe environment, the key component of it is testing. We got to do more and more testing to see how many people are carrying it.
Yeah.
Well, so right now, I believe we're around 15,000 tests a day in Ontario. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah, I think the goal is 17,000 right now, so we're on our way to that. Yep.
So, Will, let's say we get to 25,000 a day.
Yep.
Do a little bit of math. If you're testing 13,000 a day and then you go to 25,000 a day, do you think the number of cases will increase?
Or positives will, and yet, because I asked that question of Dr. Williams, the Chief Medical Officer of Health, and he said, yes, you're absolutely right. We'll be having more positives, but they're going to be able to bake that extra testing into their calculations for where we're at exactly. So it's not just a raw number that says, oh, we had 400 new cases, but he'll be able to determine if that compares to that number of 200 cases a day that he had put out there. And I'm assuming that because we're nowhere near the 200 cases a day that he said that yet, that they're already doing a bit of that, which is why we're seeing some relaxation in some of the rules. And with some of the opening up that we're seeing right now, that they're going, yeah, we're not at 200 cases a day, which I think was a number that I think he put out there a few weeks ago. But I think with the extra testing that we're doing now, they're calculating that in, which is, I don't have a master's degree in public health, but they have some pretty complicated modeling that they do in order to come up with that. And even with the extra testing and with the extra positives that we're getting, we're still seeing the opening up happening. So I think that's baked into it, yes.
Okay. Will, are we still at 1 fatality in Brantford?
I don't have the firm. I know there was.
I thought we were at.
I don't have that. I don't. Yeah. I thought 1 in Brantford, 1 in Six Nations. Milan, do you know?
Okay, so there's 2 in Brant County the last time I checked, which was about a week ago. 2 in the county of Brant. They were both in their mid-80s, and we have 1 in the city of Brantford at 62-year-old lady.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea how many people could well have died by now because of canceled surgeries and testing for tumors, x-rays, and all that? Is I think Dr. Tam said, or one of them, that they gave a number. It was 35.
That was UHN, right? University Health Network in Toronto.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was even province wide. I think that was just in that health system. So that would be a very interesting question that I would not be offended if Dr. McNeil from the Brant Community Healthcare System had an answer to that. But it would also depend, of course, because a lot of our patients, especially cardiac patients, will get transferred to Hamilton. And so to put an exact figure on that is difficult, but it's a very good question. But I don't have an inkling of even get the proper answer to that. But it's a good question.
I think just one final comment is, I think we all got to be really careful. The fear, if you overplay the fear factor, the consequences will be worse than the virus itself.
Yes.
It's not real. 75% of the deaths are in old age homes. My parents are both 97. My mom will be 97 on Tuesday, God willing. And at 97, pretty much a mosquito could kill you. And, I really have concern that when they say a person died of COVID because they tested them, the truth is, I think most of us, if we're honest, we know what's been going on in these old age homes. It's just as likely that they died of lack of care than they did of the actual COVID. Combined, let's say it that way. You're choosing to call it the COVID, even though I don't deny they had the COVID. The test is real. But when people are laying in their bed for 3 days without a change of diapers and getting a choice if they want their hair washed or they want their breakfast, I have serious questions about what they actually died from.
Thank you, Martin.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Thank you.
I don't have an answer to that, obviously, and but I would from what I've seen is I don't think most of those concerns are going on in our long-term care homes. I know there's been some reports going out that the province has been working with one or two in particular, but I would say that that's quite an exaggeration of where people are at, and I'm not going to second guess the cause of death. Again, that's not my bailiwick.
Thank you. Any last call for questions? It's 8:28, so I think, Will, you do have to.
Yeah, I got to be on this next call shortly.
Yeah, got something important. So I will just say thank you very much for taking the time to come out and answer some of the questions that we had. And I know you're very busy, so we appreciate, any time block that you can give to us realtors here. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and I really appreciate your time in setting it up. It's really great to be able to have a conversation with a bunch of people at the same time. Sorry I don't have answers to all the questions, but please feel free to contact our office. Obviously, will.baum@pc.ola.org, and the phone number is 519-759-0361. And if we don't have the answer, we'll try and find it for you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You bet. Everyone have a great day, and well, stay home and stay safe, but hopefully we can put this behind us and not have a second wave and shut everything back down again.
Thanks for your work, Will.
You bet.
Thank
have
you
a great
very
day.
much.
Yeah. See ya.
We'll let Will log off, and then I'll just give a brief update and we'll go from there. All right. I think Mr. Bauma's moved on to his caucus meeting. So I just wanted to take 2 seconds to say thank you, everybody, for logging in and participating in this. And we do have Mayor Kevin Davis joining us next week. We're going to have a different day and time just to accommodate that. So it looks like right now will be next Wednesday at 2:30. We'll have the Mayor Kevin Davis on. It'll be a similar format, and he'll just be giving us an update on what we're doing locally. So please mark your calendars and join us for that one as well. Does anybody have any questions for me or the board or the association at this time? All right. Seeing nothing, I'll let y'all get back to real life now. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Rose.
Have a great day.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Rose. Thanks, Rose.
You. Bye, guys.
Happy Cinco de Mayo.